So welcome to the Internet Archive. This is great. I know actually a whole lot of you are here. You're in a class. But there are a bunch that aren't here because of the class. Why are you guys here? How did you find us?
I found you by driving by.
You're just driving by, there's a sign?
Oh, there's an Internet Archive. I would like to see it. And then I went to the Internet and saw that you have tours.
Yay. Okay, great. Anybody else?
I found you in a dancing class.
We're in a dancing class. We're old friends. Anyway, okay, welcome to the Internet Archive. Over the next sort of 20, 30 minutes, I can give you an idea of what the Internet Archive is, what it's for, but the whole idea of this is to try to get you guys to engage in some way, to participate. Use the materials, upload something, come away saying, I want to help by volunteering, I want to work there, I want to do something like this where I'm from, whatever it is. So that's the underlying goal of this half an hour that you're on. Okay, so the Internet Archive is a nonprofit research library. This is the headquarters building. It's been around for about 28 years. The idea of this is to try to build the internet into the dream of the library of everything, the digital library of Alexandria, to bring universal access to all knowledge. Can we make it so that everything ever published could be accessed by anybody curious enough to want to have access to it? Technologically, we've known this is possible. And this was the vision of the internet that I signed on to, actually way before starting the Internet Archive, to try to get that vision to happen. So I helped build some of the computers and some of the systems before the web, and then when the web came along, tried to get the publishers on board, and then turned in 1996 to building the library. So the idea is to build a library of everything ever published. But to do that, we thought, okay, let's start by trying to collect the most ephemeral of media, which was the World Wide Web. The average life of a web page is only 100 days before it's changed or deleted. So it's kind of a cruel joke to call them pages. Because you kind of think, Gutenberg Bible or something like that that's going to last hundreds of years. Nope, it doesn't. It's centralized. It's all in one place. So these web servers go and make these pages available. They're very convenient, but they're very ephemeral. So we thought, okay, let's take a snapshot of everything on the web. So the idea is to basically make a very efficient browser that basically clicks on every web link on every web page every 2 months. So collect every web page from every website every 2 months. And take a snapshot, then start again, another snapshot, snapshot, snapshot. And it's starting to get big. So there's actually a lot out there. We collect about 1 billion URLs a day. So it's a lot that sort of is just of going in and gathering all of this information. Who's used the Wayback Machine? Yeah? No? Okay, so that's probably our most prominent service. It's basically archive of old web pages, and so all past versions. So for instance, if you go to Wikipedia, have you all used Wikipedia? Yes? 100%? Yeah. All right. So if you want to go deeper on something, you can go to one of the citations, the footnotes, and those are often to web links or to books or to articles. So we've basically gone fixed broken links in Wikipedia, and we've fixed about 20 million of them at this point. And it's ongoing to sort of continuously update and fix them. It requires us going and archiving them immediately once somebody authors them, and then we go back after they die, which they all do, and go and put in new ones. We also have prioritized the digitizing of the books that are referenced, so that if you go down there, you can click and open right to the right page, if we have it, to go and find more information on that subject. You can get a page or two, and then if you want more than that, then you have to borrow the book. So the idea is to try to make it so people can go deeper than just the Wikipedia page. It's actually very important for going and reinforcing Wikipedia to have these links be clickable, because if you want to go and make an assertion in Wikipedia, there's always this wrestling back and forth of people saying, okay, this is the right fact, this is the right fact, da 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 da. And if it's not clickable, it gets less weight in that conversation. And also if it's, so we want to try to make Wikipedia strong, the web strong. And so that's one of the real uses of the Wayback Machine, but it's used for all sorts of other things as well. We now work not just with sort of this dumb robot that goes back and forth. There are now 1,200 libraries and archives that work with us as part of the Archive It program, where they go and collect websites that they think are important to archive right now to make searchable databases for their own collections, but then it also goes into the global Wayback Machine. So this is it's basically a huge collaborative project to try to archive all of this material and make it permanently available online. Well, that's been going along okay. So in the year 2000, we thought, okay, what else should we do? And we thought, television. People weren't recording television. Library of Congress was supposed to, and they didn't. So we hit the record button. Russian, Chinese, Japanese, Iraqi, Al Jazeera, BBC, CNN, ABC, Fox, 24 hours a day, DVD quality. Since the year 2000, since 2009, we made the United States television news available online searchably to be able to find clips. And if you want the whole program, then you borrow it from the Internet Archive. We put it on a thumb drive, we send it to you, and then you have to send it back to the library. But it's a huge collection of millions of hours of television news that you can basically find what people said in the past in television to make it referenceable. In high school here in the United States, we're taught to be able to think critically. You need to be able to quote, compare, and contrast. So it starts with being able to quote something, and then you can go and put it in context and put, thinking around it. But if you can't quote something, if you can't hold on to it, then it just flows over. And you can't really hold people accountable for it. So people can just make things up. And people are making things up. And so television in the United States, ever since sort of the advent of cable, has just been spewing with all sorts of, right information, wrong information, propaganda, and the like. So how can we get a handle on that? We thought, at least let's archive it and make it so you can quote it. Beyond that, actually, some good progress has been made by some researchers to make it more accessible at scale. One of the problems with some of these time-based media, audio and video, is you only have so much time. So you're only going to go and see kind of one thing, and you're going to think whatever it is you see is true, pretty much. And so people live inside these bubbles. And we do, each of us do. Is there a mechanism of being able to look inside other people's bubbles? And to be able to do that, we're going to need to summarize things that take too long to be able to watch, because you can't, watch all of it all the time. So, what if you could go and try to understand, say, Russian state television? What are they broadcasting to their own people? what's their world like, or what's Ukrainian, or what's Iranian, or what's the American South, or whatever. What's going on in these different areas in terms of the media stream. So we've been archiving this stuff along. A researcher named Kahle has been taking these video files, taking the audio out of it, and then doing automatic transcription. So in the Russian case, you have what's now on Russian television in Russian text. So you can search it. It's sort of like having closed captions for all of what we're recording. That's good, except I don't speak Russian. So you can go and also use these same technologies, the AI technologies, to translate it. It's going to be a little buggy, right? But it's pretty good these days. And so you can basically transcribe it and then translate it into English. That's good, but it's still too long. And now you can also do these summarizations to be able to go and say, yesterday, what were the top 10 points that the Russian state media was putting to its people? And you can get a pretty good guide to this. Things that used to take a lot of people time to be able to do, but can this give us a macro vision of what's going on, a macroscope? A microscope gives you a big idea of what's going on in the small. Can you basically take a step back and be able to see media as a whole? And that's something that libraries are kind of uniquely designed and able to do because they go across all publisher sectors and try to go and get this larger collections. Can we then use some of these AI technologies to make it so that you can come up with ideas of what's going on? So anyway, I find that pretty exciting about the television. So web and television. And we also want to record all music, right? All audio. And so we've been doing, okay, so a poll. So, listen to music in the last week? Yes? 100%? Okay. Listen to music from a streaming service in the last week? No? Okay, but everybody else probably yes? No? There's a no there? Okay. Listen to music on an MP3 that's on a device that you control. Just a few, right? So isn't that interesting? That basically things have shifted off of that so fast to basically just being the streaming services only? Okay, how about CDs? In the last week. In the last week. Okay, 1. That's dead medium, right? Okay, long playing records?
Yes.
Okay, all right. In the last, it has to be in the last week. Yeah, okay, hipster. Okay, before that was 78 RPM records. We happen to have one here. And these guys were basically from 1900 to 1950. And they're made out of shellac, and they're really hard because they actually physically move the needle to move a diaphragm, to move air, to make you want to dance. There's no electronics involved, which is kind of awesome. And so we've been digitizing those. We've digitized 450,000 of them with about 100 libraries all participating, because everything that we do is all these participation of these large library collections. And making these things as available as we can. Actually, the music guys decided out of the 450,000, there were 3,000 that they were mad at us for making available, and so they're suing us for $400 million. So they want us dead over a bunch of 78 RPM records, which is kind of bad behavior, but that's what is happening in the United States. Before 78 RPM records, there's cylinder recordings. These are patented by Edison. And if you look at one of the records, it's all about Edison, not actually about what you'd hear if you listen to it, but about Edison. If you missed it, here's a picture of Edison. He's kind of the Elon Musk of his time. It's all about me. But they're technology that was sort of 1880 to 1900. That's what we were listening to before. And what they found is it wasn't Edison thought it was going to be used mostly for making temporary recordings, specifically around the telephone, basically answering machines. He was right, he was just too early. What people really wanted was to listen to music. And so they wanted to hear copies made, and cylinders are difficult to copy, but discs were easier. So, so we've been recording and trying to collect as much music and audio files as we can. We have millions of them now, which is kind of great. Then there's, we started digitizing books on about 2002, 2003. Come on down here, let's see if there's, if you can peek in, this is, we have about 19 scanning centers in 5 countries. This is a small scanning center, it's a boutique scanning center. That's Eliza, who is digitizing a book. It's basically raise and lower glass and to flatten the page, take 2 pictures, push a pedal, and then raise the glass, turn the page, 2 more pictures. And click, 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 click. And it takes about an hour to digitize a book. And we digitize about 3,000 books a day, about 1 million books a year. We've digitized maybe 7 or 8 million books. Google Books has done more than we have, but we've pretty much got kind of the American library system issue. Eliza, what are you digitizing?
Already papers.
Papers? Oh, they're actually papers, so it's not actually a book in this case.
Library, San Francisco.
The San Francisco Public Library. So this is a scanner that is like we have them in many, many, many libraries around the world to digitize and make things available. People are starting to donate physical materials to us because they don't want it anymore. So we just wanted 1 copy of everything digitally ever made. We thought that would be hard enough. But then we found that libraries were, well, throwing things out. And so we said, okay, why don't we try to figure out how to keep one thing physically that's ever been published. So we don't want multiple copies, but we'd like 1 copy. And so we are now, there's another nonprofit that has really gotten good at storing these. They bought a building, filled it up. It's in Richmond, California. It's completely great. So they bought another one, they filled that one up. And now they're on their 3rd, and they're about halfway through, and they're trying to figure out where to go at the end of next year when that one's filled up. So things are coming in about 2 shipping containers every week at that sort of rate. So it's millions of books, records, microfilm, microfiche, CDs, you name it, media, and all of that's coming in as well. You guys are probably too young for. Oh, can I see one of them?
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
I skipped.
Anybody recognize what this is? Microfiche, right. So in the 20th century, there was this dream of universal access to all knowledge. Sound familiar? It's been a dream for a long time. And they basically built it around making microfilm and microfiche versions of print materials. So you could put a whole bunch of pages on a small part of a page, and then you take these out and put it into a special reader and read it. Well, the publishers didn't like this, and they basically stopped it, more or less. And so the idea of universal access to all knowledge had to wait until the internet era. But a lot of government documents that don't have the rights problems and don't have the publishers involved as much were made. These are, for instance, Supreme Court briefings. These are not publicly available, even though they're public domain. So the idea of bringing public access to the public domain is something we take very seriously. And so we're digitizing things and making them publicly available on the net. Thank you, Eliza. This is a prototype rig. This is our 3rd generation microfiche scanner. And it's basically an industrial camera that takes 4 pictures of a piece of microfiche, and then software goes and puts them all back together again, then takes the individual pages off of it to go and then make those back into documents that are then optical character recognition is made, and so that you can go and it is available to the blind and dyslexic, which we do with all of our materials, for instance, all the books. Then we also make it available for interlibrary loan, for machine learning, and in the case of government documents, you can just download and reuse them however you want to, because it's public domain. So we believe in public access to the public domain, and this particular is part of our Democracies Library project, to try to bring all of the publications of the democracies to the public. So democracies need an educated populace, and so they tend to publish freely and openly. Let's say unlike authoritarian governments or large corporations, which don't actually care about having an educated populace. But the democracies do. They need it. So they publish openly. So this is we've launched with Canada and the United States to go and take all of the federal documents and all the provincial and all the municipal publications and make them massively publicly available. So as we're looking at the next generation beyond this, to go and be able to make this, scale this out, to be able to do much more, because we have millions of these cards. People have been donating, libraries have been donating them to us because people don't like using them anymore. You guys probably have just never even used this stuff. And so it's not like it's been replaced by other things in the libraries. There's just not available.
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
How do you sort of keep track of what's out there, what you need to go look for, what you haven't found yet? How do you have a systematic approach to collecting this stuff?
There's an app for the book.
Yes.
It's an app.
Oh, yeah. Actually, that's a free app. It's called Donate Books, and you can basically use it to scan the barcode on the back of a book or point it at an ISBN and it'll read it. And it'll say, we need that, or we don't need that. And so a lot of people go and use that. The web, we do different mechanisms to try to deduplicate. This is also, we deduplicate in other ways.
You had mentioned like municipal archives. I mean, there's no central repository of anything.
No. It's all these different places. So that's where we work with the libraries themselves and archives. So like just in the web collection, it's 1,200 of those organizations. The book collection, I think last year we got books from 500 different libraries. And we try to deduplicate them and weave them together into resources that people can use on archive.org for free. Yeah.
How do you get funded?
How do we get funded? So the archive is about $25 million a year kind of thing. And it's about one third. So that's how libraries are all basically funded. About a third comes from other libraries and archives paying us to digitize books or collect web pages for them. About a third comes from foundations giving us grants, and a third from philanthropy of people basically hitting the donate button. So here's good opportunity. Please hit the donate button. And about 150,000 people last year donated to the Internet Archive. And that's how we keep it going. And the other way that we survive financially is we just don't pay ourselves very much, right? I mean, where you are right now is in an old church. This used to be a church, converted into the archive. When we bought this building, because it matched our logo. So you can see our logo, which is the sort of the Parthenon-looking thing, and then this building came for sale. It's like, that's our logo. So we bought the building, and so it's a survival technique. So Internet Archive is about 20 million a year. Wikipedia is about 120 million, something like that. The San Francisco Public Library is about 190 million, and that's just San Francisco. Right, that's that's not Alameda, that's not Santa Clara, that's just San Francisco. So I'd say we're a bargain. All in all. Okay, now, another thing we wanted to digitize and archive was was more of the born digital. So the web is kind of difficult because it wasn't really designed to be archived. So we archive it and then we try to play it back in the Wayback Machine. But there are other things that also were fairly difficult, like software. So what do you do about things like Apple II software, Commodore 64s, or old software platforms that don't exist anymore, or are really hard, or finding a floppy or a floppy drive that will work? It's like, should we just have that stuff disappear? I mean, unfortunately, the laws have been crafted such that copyright lasts 100 years. And so, if you've tried to read a floppy from 5 years ago, it just doesn't work. So you have to be much more proactive as an archive and then use things. Otherwise, it won't be there when you ask for it. So Jason Scott, who runs the software archive here, the Internet Archive, he said, I've got an idea. Why don't we go and try to make it so that you can play things on the web? Right? Stanford University said, oh, they just got this huge, awesome software collection. I asked what they were going to do, and then they said, just keep the boxes. It's like, but what about the software? It's like, well, we'll just keep it in the box. And so Jason Scott said, why don't we take these emulators that are written in C code and are very difficult to get to work, to go and try to get your emulator to work. Take the C code, cross-compile it into JavaScript, then take the JavaScript of like an IBM PC emulator, load it into the browser, boot an IBM PC in your browser, and then use the Internet Archive as a giant floppy drive. I said, that will never work. And he said, there are a bunch of volunteers. Give us a year or two. We'll try to make it work. And it did. It completely worked. And so we now have on the order of 100,000 software titles. I've been trying my hand at Prince of Persia, which I got to meet the developer of it a couple of weeks ago, which is kind of awesome. And he was really thrilled that all this was here. So this is Prince of Persia from 1990. So when I click on this, we're going to download the JavaScript, boot an IBM PC, then leverage the floppy. Okay, it's downloaded. We booted. Now. Ta-da! It's working. And so it's a bit accurate version of this old game. Oh, he even taught me how I should be able to, I always die really early here. Okay. So I think a lot of people are reliving their 8-bit past here and trying this out. Okay. So here. Oh, he said that I lost a life by not. Okay. So here. All right. Okay. Let's see if I learned anything at all. So I have to jump over this, and by going jump. Oh! No, I didn't learn anything. So this is Prince of Persia, or at least the very first part of it. It's been played 2 million times on the archive, and people really like it. I've maybe been 1 million of those, and I never get much further than this. But the idea is to try to keep these cultural works alive. So a lot of people are just revisiting their past, nostalgia, but also younger people are starting to understand what the 8-bit thing was, and some of it's still actually worth using in and of its own right. So the idea is to try to archive the print and film versions, and we have movies, we've got other things, and archive those, make those available, but also the born digital to try to make them permanent and permanently available. So, as I said, you are in a former church. Come on upstairs. So, this was a church. We thought when we bought it, we'd flatten the floor and make it into a library. But you see there's still pews here. But the back we flattened to go and adapt to it, and it's adapting to us. One thing I think is kind of interesting is these are servers of the Internet Archive, and on this side and the other side is about 15 petabytes of the over 150 petabyte collection of the Internet Archive. This is the primary copy. So what you're looking at is actually servers serving the internet. And you never get to see somebody's servers. Really. I mean, ever, much less walk up to them and touch them. I think of technology as reflecting the people that build it. So let's make technology beautiful. Whenever I see pictures of things like Google's farms or Facebook's, they're in undisclosed locations someplace, and they look dark and cavernous, kind of like where Darth Vader lives. And I think that's a disservice, or it's making us think and believe and understand sort of the secret nature of what it is that's going on in those places. So let's bring these things to light. Anyway, these are our servers, and I've been building and designing supercomputers my whole career. The cool thing about this one, from my perspective, is the lights actually mean something. So every time a light blinks is somebody uploading something or downloading something from the Internet Archive. We get, there are about 2 million people a day that use the Internet Archive website, and about 6 million a day that use the Internet Archive's resources. So every time you might go to a Wayback Machine web capture or a music file or whatever, a light someplace is going to blink, and because they're attached to hard drives that are on these servers. There's fiber optics within the building, and there's a dark fiber that connects the Internet Archive with the major switching point in San Francisco.
Concerned about security?
Are we concerned about security? Yes, in many different ways. So there's lots of different forms of fault. It's like, okay, well, there's earthquakes, and there's people going and taking a hammer and things like that. So one approach is to try to protect it. Another is to have copies, and also to have people understand that it's vulnerable, and it is vulnerable. What happens to libraries is they're destroyed, and they're usually purposefully destroyed. You don't have to just go back to Nazi era to go and find this. Just go to Kiev or Baghdad or some places in the United States, and these libraries are destroyed, and they're generally destroyed by the powerful. So having it so that a large number of people want to protect libraries is the only way they're going to survive. So now you guys are all deputized. Your job, in part, is to go and protect your local library or protect the Internet Archive. Because if you don't, they will go away. And that's not a political statement, that's just historically what happens. The powerful generally don't want information available. It's not that they're complaining about all information, they just don't want some of it. And the easiest way to make that happen is to wipe it all out. There are other copies. This is the primary copy. There's another copy in Richmond, California. There's a partial copy in Canada, and in Amsterdam, and in Alexandria, Egypt, for real. The idea is to have things in multiple places that are in different parts of their sort of authoritarian curves, or corporate, because I think what's brought down most libraries in the United States in the last 50 years has been corporations, and they just destroy them. So how do we go and try to keep things available for the long term? The idea is to count on different places that have different parts of they're in different parts of their cycle of wanting to keep information alive and available. So anyway, that's servers, other things here. Oh, on the stage there's 4 monitors that are blinking away. When we first started this place, I wanted to get the Library of Congress involved, so I offered them a copy of the first full crawl of the web. They eventually said yes, and so I had to make it into what does the web look like? If you're going to donate a copy of the web, what does it look like? So I commissioned Alan Rath, who is an artist, and said, make what the internet, what the web looks like. And that's what he came up with. And he called it 2 terabytes in 63 inches. The World Wide Web, 1997. And so the whole web was about 2 terabytes, right? It's kind of ridiculously small, but that was the number. And they're in the tapes on the side, and the screens are showing home pages. So it sat in the lobby of the Library of Congress for 15 years, and they said, okay, we're done with it. And I said, give it back, give it back. So they gave it back to us. So other artworks that are around here, this is a sculpture called Second Bite, which is all images of femininity. And I recommend you go and sit in it for a bit. It's interesting. Another is these sculptures. These sculptures, they're us. They're us. They're kind of a riff on the terracotta soldiers from Xi'an, China. If you work for the archive for 3 years, then we make a little statue. And it's a way of celebrating. Come on down. It's a way of celebrating the people that work here. It's also a mechanism of trying to provide an idea of what are websites. Because it's really hard to know when you're using a website. It's like, where does this come from? And it's like, well, it's servers like that, and people like this are spending their lives going and making it go real. Yes?
Where's your stage up? Where's yours?
I'm here. That's Aaron Schwartz, a young man who was basically crushed and died because he was too open. Ted Nelson. But people that just scan books all day long or run departments or whatever, they're all the same size, which I thought was kind of inspiring out of the Xi'an, China terracotta archivists. And so you'll see them all on the other side. And Caitlin, I think you're over there. There's some in the back. Okay, what do you think? Cool or creepy?
Cool.
Cool? Cool? Creepy? Okay, we got some creepy. All right. Anyway, so the idea is to celebrate those that are sitting out the .com boom or the AI boom or the crypto boom or whatever, to go and spend their lives in public service. There's no gold at the end of the rainbow here. It's a nonprofit, and so we at least get to be proud of what it is we're doing, and what we're trying to accomplish. Any other questions? You have to speak louder, please.
Different artists.
Oh, the artist is a woman named Nuala Creed from Petaluma. Here she is. So she worked 3 years on all of these, so she made a statue to herself. Any other questions?
You touched on some copyright issues before. How do you, literally a lot of this stuff is still under protection. How do you navigate that?
We try to do it carefully and respectfully, and by going and buying materials and putting them up, which actually worked really well until the beginning of the pandemic, when all the libraries were shut, and that put a much bigger spotlight on us by the book publishers, so they sued us to make sure that all libraries were shut. It was kind of awesome. That's not great. And so that's going through the courts. And then the music guys said, okay, no, we're going to kill you over 3,078 RPM records. So libraries and publishers have always worked in parallel. In fact, libraries are older than publishers. But we'll see. In the United States, corporations have really grown to be extraordinarily powerful. That's the thing that I think I got wrong in my predictions of the future, because I started this project in 1980, and in the United States we still had antitrust laws. We had mechanisms of trying to keep corporations from becoming monopoly structures, but those have all been dispensed with in the United States and large part Europe as well. So that's, I think, the thing that is really changed about our environment is sort of the strength of the consolidation into, you think of almost any field and it just has a few, and it's often globally, take banking or steel or auto manufacturing or ba-da-da-da-da, and it's just like, it's nothing like it was. And we're seeing some of the effects of what happens, and part of it is assertions against libraries. So libraries are getting sort of bashed on currently from book bannings, also defundings in the United States, so the libraries are getting defunded. Corporations are going after them with these outrageous licensing schemes to make them kind of irrelevant. So that's going on, and the judiciary, the judges now in the United States are starting to rule against libraries. The United States used to be a real leader in libraries, and we'll see whether there are basically libraries left in the United States in 25 years. I'm hopeful, but it's a challenging time.
Do you run all your stuff and data on premise, or also something in the cloud?
Do we have all of our data on premises? Well, you're looking at some of it. That's about 10%, and you hear others. It's a lot of it's actually in this building. So so you can see there's no air conditioning there. So we use the heat to heat the building. So we're both green and we're cheap. If it gets too warm, we open the windows. And then there's these. So there are copies of some things that some researchers have put in the cloud. I like the line of our head of IT is, the cloud just means that it's somebody else's computers. So if you want to actually control your own life, own your own stacks. Anything else? I think that's a public domain movie or something from the archive that Evan is Jacques Cousteau. So we got this cool new projector that's this out of an old theater, and that's what we're going to be showing tonight is public domain movies on our screen. So you should definitely come back. Yes.
Are the books and microfiche digitalized? Do you store them?
After the microfilms or books are digitized, do we store them? Yes, we absolutely do. So we love the physical materials, and we try to keep every generation of them. So that's what we use our that physical archives that are filling buildings is to be the place of these materials that have been digitized or that are waiting to be digitized. So yes, and if you take a book, it may have gone through being a book, then being a microfilm, then microfiche, then a CD-ROM, then maybe our old generation of these machines, which are red, we keep those, right? So the idea is to keep copies of the materials, try to ensure longevity. Preservation is really hard.
You gonna go after podcasts?
Yes, we're pretty good on them. And radio, yes.
The archive is available everywhere in the world or just in the US?
It's available wherever there aren't restrictions. So China has blocked the Internet Archive because it's got some videos, just a few videos that they didn't like, so they blocked the whole library. That's China. It blinks on and off in Russia. Sometimes it blinks on and off different parts of India. The United States is the music the movie publishers are trying to reinstigate SOPA PIPA, which will block things in the United States. So we'll see sort of what happens in different countries. I think Germany blocks websites.
When Disney became available in last year, Germany still blocks it. So the Mickey Mouse is not available in Germany.
Still not available in Germany. Right. Right. And the Germans sued to go and Project Gutenberg. So that's all blocked in Germany. So Germany is sort of one of the leaders in blocking.
You have to go through an Austrian server to get.
Okay. Anything else?
Music and the movies are accessible for free?
No, most of that's just preserved. The music we do 30 seconds, so it's really not very satisfying. But it does have fingerprints and it's got the artwork, so you can use it for research purposes. And we don't really know most of that how to make it available. The 78s are available, but the CD and long playing records and a lot of the rest are at least preserved, and then we make them as available as we can. And how do you go and make these things available? Like the libraries I grew up with, you could get access through the libraries, but not anymore, right? You guys can't. So I think we've basically made some major steps backwards at a time when we could have made steps forward. And so trying to figure out what is a library mean in the 21st century is still being figured out. All right, so why don't we go downstairs, and I think we may have ice cream. Do we get ice cream? Yay!